This week, really just kind of hitting on a handful of topics, all kind of unrelated. So, as Alex Trebek would say, hodgepodge or whatever that category was. So we're going to talk about the bid by job aid, a very, very, very small update for the IFB job aid and RFP job aid with the rule change regarding the bid opening sheet. So we'll have some clarification regarding that. Small business set-asides and BEP goals, how those interact and work with each other on a very specific situation. If you're doing an IFB utilizing a NIGP code that is set aside for small businesses, this is not affecting small purchases at all. We'll talk about that. The UP, Jpmc, and participation lists have been updated. We'll show you where those are at and describe what those are. And then just kind of a quarterly reminder that we have two different help desks for bid buy. If you're a state user, there's one help desk. If you are a vendor, there's another help desk. And then also login assistance, how we can help you get your password updated from your own home screen without having to bring anybody else in. And then our Introduction to Illinois Procurement course is tomorrow. And then fun fact, actually, I might say it's actually a useless fact of the day to finish up our training today. So let's jump right on in. All right, so last week we talked about the rule changes for the JCAR rule changes. And one clarification and one thing that's going to be updated is our job aids regarding the bid opening sheet or the RFP opening sheet. So if you recall that recent change of the definition to state witness, and we have a link that goes directly here from our slides that you'll all receive today. State witness is defined as an employee of the procuring agency who observes the opening of sealed bids, proposals, responses, or submissions. In the e-procurement system, the system may serve as the state witness. So what that ends up changing is if you're in a situation where you open up a bid and you're the only person, that bid buy can act as the witness, right? Because it kind of tracks all that information. So what was added to the job aid is, if you see at the bottom, this top one is the IFB job aid, and below is the RFP job aid. The only thing that was added in the entire job aid is we put if applicable. Okay, so if you're in a situation where that's the only change is to update that if applicable, and there are no other updates to the job aids. But when we make changes, of course, we change that version number. So now when you go to the job aid page, you'll see that it is version 23.1 published on 8/01 of 22. Okay, but I do want to be clear, there aren't any other process changes, nothing big. It's just that regarding that bid opening sign-in sheet, if you are an agency if there are other witnesses to that bid opening, then you would need to have a bid opening sheet. So that's what if applicable means. However, if you are in a scenario where you are the only one opening that bid or RFP, or opening the bid, I guess, in bid buy, that's okay. The rules do allow for that. Now, I will reiterate that if your agency has a specific process that they like to do regarding this and have someone else be a part of the opening and do have other witnesses, then it's perfectly okay. It's just in that situation where you would have more than one person there, then you would have a bid opening sign-in sheet. Okay. Let me know if there are any questions regarding that. Should be pretty straightforward, but we wanted to provide that clarification. We had a couple people ask that question as a result of last week. Great questions. And so now that job aid has been updated for that, if applicable. Okay. All right. Next up, let's talk about small business set-aside IFBs and RFPs and BEP goals. So let's set this up. What's Dave talking about here? So the applicability here is when you're doing an IFB or an RFP, utilizing any of the NIGP codes that are set aside for small business set aside program vendors. And we have a link directly to what those codes are. There are about 600 NIGP codes that if you are utilizing those set aside codes, and it could be above the small purchase limit, they are set aside for small businesses. Let's see, I got a question here. So the bid opening sign-in and pricing opening sheets are only required if there are 2 or more people present for the click. Yes, absolutely. So going back to the bid opening sheet and the RFP opening sign-in sheet, you only need to use that if there are 2 or more people. So if you're only the one person, that you're allowed now to open that, because that rule changed the definition of state witness. So in the past, the code would say that it needs to be within bid opening in the presence of 1 or more witnesses. Witnesses has now been defined as that e-procurement system counts as the state witness. So yes, absolutely. If there are, it's only going to be required. So that's where that if applicable comes in, if there are 2 or more people. Or I would be more specific and say 1 person other than the person who's actually doing the opening. Okay. And if you have any other questions regarding your specific scenario, you can always reach out to your SPO as well. All right, so back to our small business set aside. As you recall, there are two types of avenues that are set aside for small businesses. One is small purchase, right? Any one-time purchase from $2,000 up to $100,000 are set aside for our small business set aside program vendors, right? We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the other avenue, which is it could be an IFB for $300,000. If you're utilizing a small business set aside code, it would be set aside for those small businesses. So we're really kind of getting, this is a pretty specific type of procurement. Some of you may have not been a part of one of these. I know many of you have. So this is a pretty specific type of scenario. So you're doing a small business set aside IFB or RFP. Again, this is not affecting small purchases at all. And then you go out to your small businesses, and for whatever reason, there is a, and also with those set aside for small businesses, there is no BEP goal on those, okay? Because it is set aside only for small business vendors. Now, we do have some crossover, of course, between some BEP vendors that are small business vendors, but in that situation, that BEP vendor who is also a small business vendor would be the prime vendor for that contract, okay? So in the scenario where if the SPO approves and signs the small business set aside program waiver, right? Okay, so it goes out, it's only for the small business set aside program vendors, there's no BEP goal, then for any number of those reasons that you have a waiver, whether no responses are given or the 2 most common that we see really are no responses are received, or a quote comes in just astronomically high, and then there's a determination made by the SPO. And so that the waiver is signed by the SPO. At that point, now the BEP goal becomes applicable. So it's almost like you're going back to the original IFB, RFP, but it's just simply no longer set aside. Okay, so again, this is a pretty specific scenario, but it is an interesting situation where you would not immediately just go out to all businesses with no BEP goal. So when it's set aside, it has no BEP goal. Once it's no longer set aside, right, we move to the next stage. Now BEP goals become applicable, and you need to follow the BEP goal setting process, etc. Okay. Again, if you get in a situation like this, your SPO is going to be a part of that procurement anyway. And if you have any specific questions regarding this scenario, you can always reach out to them. Okay. All right. Clarification or a question from last week, a really good question regarding the specific section of the rule change regarding fax submissions. So I want to circle back and provide an answer to this question. So just if you recall, we removed the fax submissions from being able to be received for solicitations and small purchases. Emails are perfectly okay, and of course the e-procurement system. We're just getting rid of fax submissions. So the question was, what about being used for, can faxes be used for receiving references? And the answer is no. We're just going to stay away from faxes across the board completely. It's kind of outdated technology. They can just send it via email. That way you have a better record of when it was received, confirmation, those sorts of things. As well as with many of us, potentially working remotely, you know, and the way that just the way that the fax operates, it's easily could be sitting on the fax machine or easily could be picked up from somebody else. And like I said, with many of us working remotely, we're just going to stay away from faxes completely. Okay. Again, if you have any specific questions regarding that, you can always reach out to your SBO, but faxes are going by the wayside completely. All right, now let's move on to our joint purchase master contracts list. That's been updated. Now, I'll show you real quickly how to get there, but if in that slide, there's 3 clicks to get there. You'll go to the CPOGS page, and at the bottom, you're going to click on the Unified Procurement Program icon. You're going to select processes and resources for state agencies, and then you'll click at the bottom, which is the Jpmc contracts list. From this slide, you do have the direct link, but you can always just get it from these steps that I showed you. So this, the UP team has also added, which is a nice feature here, just in the title is the date that it's been updated to. So we get a question many times, how can I find a master list of all of our joint purchase master contracts? The UP team has compiled this list with direct links into BidBuy, which is really handy. And so they potentially will be updating these monthly, and we'll be sure to let you know when those are there. But you can always go to that list, and it'll actually show you the date now too, which is really cool. So let me show you that real quick. We're going to go here. We're going to go to CPOGS. All right, here's our CPOGS homepage. At the bottom right, we have the Unified Procurement Program. And we have processes and resources for state agencies. And then at the bottom, you see that joint purchase master contracts list with the date there as well. I have a question here. Oh, Brandon, perfect. Thank you very much. If anyone does need to use a fax, I recommend implementing WriteFax, a do-it tool that will convert incoming faxes straight to your email as PDF attachments. That's fantastic. Thank you, Brandon. I'm actually going to copy that, and I'm going to add that to the follow-up email for everybody too. Great tip. Thank you. All right, so similarly, we have the cooperative participation spreadsheet. And so if you click on each one of these, so again, I just want to show you this, the Jpmc contracts list, which is really nice. You see the organization here. Make that a little bit bigger for you guys. You can see the, if it was CMS, Jpmc, you see the title or the description, the vendor, as well as the contract end date. And that's really handy without even having to go and get into BidBuy. But if you'd like to learn more information about each one of these, simply click on the link here. So you see your CMS, you see your CPOGS, as well as your Do It master contracts. Okay. Let's see, I have a question here. It's really a struggle to locate contracts that we can participate in. Omnia Partners, can you demonstrate how to find one? We go back to I might do a specific one for that. Not seeing it. I guess I could search. Not seeing that. You know what? Let me circle back to that, and I will do that as well. How about guitars? No, that'd be great. We don't have any master contracts for guitars, shockingly. In the cooperative participation spreadsheet, which is on this same page, is similarly. Oh yeah, here's the Omnia one you were talking about. So yeah, thanks, Gene. Appreciate that. So same type of scenario here, where these are participations. This is where the state of Illinois is participating in an award or in a procurement. So the joint purchase master contracts list are those contracts that state of Illinois, we've created a Jpmc that you can immediately order off of. Participations, you can see where these are actually bids. Okay, so these are bids that when they're awarded, this will be updated. So you can see some of these different types of statuses they're here. They're closed, they're open, when's this going to be, when was it awarded, those sorts of things. So if you were to click on that, you can see we're at the, let's say, let me try to find one that might be, to your question about Omnia, I might need to circle back because I'm not real clear exactly where this would be. So the pending for Omnia, pending, and open and open. You know, honestly, I'm not seeing one for Omnia right now that actually has a contract in place, but I'll circle back to that one, okay? All right, so those are our joint purchase master contracts, as well as the cooperative participation list. So it's the same way to get to the same documents, but our UP team has added those dates there. So whenever you go to that page, you can see when it was recently updated. So thank you to our UP team for that. All right, so a quarterly reminder here. We'll probably do this once a quarter-ish. So we have a tale of two help desks for many of you that may be new to bid buy, new to procurement. We do have two different help desks. So all internal state user help desk questions go to the stateuser.bidbuy@illinois.gov email, and vendor help desk inquiries go to il.bidbuy@illinois.gov. Many times we get crossed up and some state user questions go to the vendor help desk and vice versa. So just a reminder that if you have in order to get your question answered quicker, you know, make sure you're going to the appropriate help desk. So they're operated by different teams functioning separately and simultaneously for different stakeholders, okay? So our vendors, if they have questions, they're going to be going to that il.bidbuy@illinois.gov. And at the bottom of our BidBuy link from the CPOGS page, you have all this information at the bottom there for your contact information. Okay, all right. So BidBuy login assistance. So similarly, you know, if you get locked out, you have a wrong password, something like that, many times you can just fix that yourself. Certainly, if you need to reach out to the state user help desk, you may, but I just want to give you a quick little tip that on the login page on BidBuy, you can change or you can utilize this login assistance and not have to worry about contacting anybody else. Again, so it's to get you back into the system quicker. So you simply click on that login assistance. You can select forgot user ID or forgot password. Most of the time it's going to be your password, right? Because your login ID is your email address, or at least it defaults to your email address. So if you don't change it, it'll be your email address. Select forgot password. The system sends you an email with a login to at least get in the system, and then you can go in and change that password to whatever you would like. But that's all there for you, so you can do it yourself without having to wait on someone else to help you. All right, tomorrow and the first Wednesday of each month, we have our Introduction to Illinois Procurement course. We've been doing this for some months now, I don't know, 8-9 months. You can click on that link to register. Last I checked right before this morning, we had 5 or 6 spots still available for tomorrow. So if you are new to procurement, this is the perfect course for you. We lay out everything that you would need to know from an introduction standpoint, who's involved in procurement, what are their responsibilities, how is a procurement conducted. We introduce some of the procurement methods. We talk about vendor requirements, some of the paperwork and those sorts of things that need to be required, and communications. What can and can't you say to a vendor? It's also approved for 2 credit hours by UPPCC. So if you want to get certified or recertified, this course helps towards those credit hours. Can you post a link in the chat for the intro course? Sure.
I'll take care of that.
All right, perfect. Sorry, I already did it. There it is. Also, while I got you here, on our CPOGS website, or actually, you know what? It's in the slide. We keep it in the weekly slides, which is the next one. So where can you find Training Tuesday bid by other training links? If you go to our training center right here, you can simply click on procurement training, and that link will always be in that section as well. You can find past Training Tuesdays, slides and videos, our bid by training links, and of course our introduction to Illinois procurement in the procurement training link there. All right, so our useless, I think it's fun, but you may think it's useless. So the Beatles record cover, Abbey Road, right? One of my favorite records of all time. You see this guy in the back? Is he the fifth Beatle? No. His name is Paul Cole. He was an American tourist who's unaware that he was being photographed until he saw the album cover months later. So kind of a fun, dumb fact there that you can impress your friends at a party, or your Beatles friends. All right. Thanks, everybody. Making sure I'm not missing any questions. Nope. So I'll circle back on the Omnia Partners question. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Tuesday. Recordings will be posted here shortly, and slides will go out to everybody on the call. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.